What is very interesting about Robert Thomas is the fact that he still has 5 years at over $8 million, but he is that quality of a centerman that teams, not just playoff teams, but teams that are not in the playoffs, could look at Robert Thomas and say, hey, instead of adding him over the summer, let's do it now. Let's prepare for the future. Now, Robert Thomas does have a no movement clause, which probably makes it a lot more simpler for everybody. You just got to get his permission. You got to work on it, right? So it's not like, oh, which teams will he go to or not to? Right now, it's nobody unless he approves the deal. So I'm going to focus on a couple of Canadian teams first when it comes to Robert Thomas. The one that's very obvious is the Montreal Canadiens. Look, the Montreal Canadiens have Nick Suzuki as a top-line center, and he will be there for many, many, many years and will play at a high level for many years. But who do you have as a second-line center? Oliver Kapanen's a good player, and he's having a really good rookie season. But between Slafkovsky and Demidov, if you had Robert Thomas, how different would the Montreal Canadiens look? And not just for this year, for the future, for the next 5+ years, having Suzuki Thomas as a 1-2. It would be unbelievable. Now, I get the cap situation with Montreal this season is going to be a little bit tough, but moving forward, you can make that work. So I would look at adding Robert Thomas if I was the Montreal Canadiens right now, and it's not just for the run of this year, but for the future, having Suzuki and Robert Thomas as your 1-2. Now, the Winnipeg Jets, completely different situation than Montreal, but they've been looking for that number 2 center to go behind Mark Scheifele. How great would Robert Thomas look in a Winnipeg Jets uniform behind Mark Scheifele, being able to give them the depth, and again, not just for this year, for the future of the organization. I think that those two teams would be upgrading so much by having a Robert Thomas. Even though he's having a down year this year, he's such a young guy with the quality that he's proven that he can play and the grit that he can play with. Those two teams would be a perfect match. Now, around the National Hockey League, you can look at the Nashville Predators, right? Okay, Ryan O'Reilly, and then who do you got? Steven Stamkos can play the middle, but the Nashville Predators are making a run for it. Now, it's going to be a lot more difficult to trade Thomas within the division in the Western Conference, but I think that the Nashville Predator could look for a guy like Robert Thomas. I think that the Chicago Blackhawks with Connor Bedard, imagine you had Bedard Thomas 1-2 in the middle, and it wouldn't be for this year for Chicago, but for the future, that would work. The San Jose Sharks, you'd have Celebrini Thomas. Again, like, it's not just the teams that are going to make the playoffs this year that should be in on Robert Thomas. It's the whole league that should be in on Robert Thomas. And this last one, this would be interesting. But the Florida Panthers, look, Florida's not going to be making the playoffs this year. They'll make some changes. But they've always been so aggressive that maybe if you lose Sergei Bobrovsky's $10 million for the rest of the year and next season, well, if they move on from Bobrovsky, they could fit Robert Thomas right now with them and have him behind Sasha Barkov for, many, many years. So I think there's so many teams that would love a Robert Thomas, not just the playoff teams, the teams that could look at the future. Montreal and Winnipeg are two of the Canadian teams that I think would have such an upgrade with Robert Thomas that I would be very aggressive right now and try to make that trade with the St. Louis Blues.